Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go over some of the general mistakes that Sean and Taylor see people making with PPC. So you want to go ahead with that, Sean, first?
Yeah, and this is for like all sellers, not just new or sorry.
Oh, well, here let's actually segment it: beginners and then the higher level sellers.
Sure. So beginners, what's the big mistakes that they kind of make? I haven't worked with beginners in a long, long time, so I'm gonna have to like
You
step
read
back and
Facebook groups, though, right?
I do
Like, come
read
on, you got to
Facebook.
see comments.
I would.
That makes sense.
I got you, Brock. I got you, homie. So basically, like I would say the big things that I see is I think that a lot of people don't know how to analyze the data, and they don't understand that, like, like for example, a lot of people use ACOS as like their north. Like the ACOS is kind of like that's all they look at, like ACOS, ACOS, ACOS. But the way that data works is ACOS is like your north star, kind of like your guiding light. But if your ACOS is off, there has to be a reason, right? There has to be a reason. And so you got to troubleshoot down and like, well, what's your conversion rate? What's your cost per click? What's your price point? And so like having a more like technical understanding of like how to troubleshoot PPC is something that see a lot of new sellers, they don't know how to do because they just look at the ACOS. They get, they get a little like, they kind of like get upset and they're like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, like I lowered my bids and it didn't work. But it's a symptom. You got to find out you have to diagnose where it is. That's one big one.
Just in general, they don't understand how like all the elements work in tandem. To create that ACOS.
Yes, exactly. And so if you don't know how each element works, it's hard to troubleshoot.
So in your opinion, what are the elements? I have my general inklings, but do you want to just go over them quickly? Like don't need to explain each one, but just list of them.
Let's say, so what we like to do is like when people come to us and say, hey, our ACOS is like not good, or they're like, hey, it's not within the target that we're looking for, and we can't really get there, then what we'll look at the difference between the average order value and the cost per click. And then we look at the conversion rate as well, because that's going to tell us what's going on, right? Because if you've got like $3 cost per click and a $12 product, well then you got to convert at an ungodly high rate to be able to do a sustainable, to have a good ACOS. And so you have to, those are kind of the three big ones that we look at. So we'll look at the average order value, which is pretty much the price, the cost per click, and the conversion rate. And then those kind of really give us insight into like, hey, is your price point too low? Is the cost per click going up? It's super high. And then those are kind of the big ones we look at when we're troubleshooting ACOS. And then what you can do is you can say like, hey, like if our price is too low, can we increase the price will it still be competitive offer in the marketplace? Things like that. And then can we increase our conversion rates? There's a lot of different things you can look at.
Okay. Yeah. That's, I definitely always suggest people, it's like, well, if you want to increase your ad spend, just increase your price point and be that premium. You don't even not see that much of a difference in conversion. So what do you also take into account relevancy? Because from my understanding, relevancy does affect the cost that you pay per click as well.
Does. It's a good question. So I was on the call with a guy, he runs this company called Etalytics. He was a former executive at Amazon. We had like the coolest call ever. He made my day with this term. He called it a relevancy tax. Dude, like that thing made my day. You have no idea. I was like going around.
I pay it on Google when I'm not relevant. Like, you can literally decrease the bid on Google by 10x. Just based off your relevancy of your landing page. So I assume it's the thing. So sorry.
I think it's similar. I don't know if it's 10x, but like I think it's similar. And I actually think we don't really look at CTR that much. I'll be honest. I haven't personally found a strong correlation between CTR and conversion rate, like for me. And so like we like to look at conversion rate. That's what we optimize for conversion. And so when it comes to the relevancy tax, I agree. So like let's say we do have a high CPC. Well, that's where you have to find out like, is the phrase describe your product? And if so, are you indexed for that phrase? Yeah. And so that's where like, if you're paying that relevancy tax, then you've got to really, and we always make the assumption when we're working with people that they have done that, but that's the more experienced sellers. But here's a good example. I worked with a seller where we had a phrase in our title that exactly described the product and we were not indexed for it. So I opened a support ticket. Come to find out, it was a problem on the engineering side. It was actually a bug that was there because we were not indexed for it. It was in our title. And so we had to escalate it to the engineering team to get an index for us. And so I'm a huge advocate of, I come from SEO.
Something to be indexed? I didn't know that. Or they could do that in the back.
Well, it wasn't even about forced. If it's in the title, you should be indexed for that phrase.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And especially if you got the category. So you got to make sure your category is relevant. And then, you make sure the keywords. And so like making sure you're relevant is huge. Like you have to make sure that you're relevant. And then you're going to
don't want to be irrelevant these days.
Yeah. You got to be relevant, man.
Okay.
Especially these days with consolidation of search terms and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. So for the people that didn't understand that, we talked about relevance. We talked about click-through rate and then, your cost per click. And then, so you're looking at kind of all of these and how well they convert, how relevant they are.
Yep.
And those are pretty much the two main things that you're looking at.
I would say relevancy. Yeah, I would say those are the big things that we look at for the products. And we'll look at unit session percentage as well. So for example, like if we have a low conversion rate on the PPC side, we'll be like, how are we doing organically? How many sessions do we have? Low volume products don't do well on PPC. And so you've got to really keep that in mind as well. So that's one big mistake that sometimes sellers make is like the new sellers is you've got to get some traction organically along with PPC. You have to do a bit of both. And so you can do that. It depends on the competition of the market. If it's a real high competition market, you're going to have to do bigger pushes from my experience. And then if it's a lower competition market, it'll be easier to do like less giveaways and things like that.
Okay, awesome. All right, so that was the kind of general overview of the PPC side.